Welcome back from the commercial break. And dear viewers and listeners, we want the Uganda we want it to be. It's not controversial, my statement. We want to realize what we want to achieve, not only on paper. And I'm not either saying we have not achieved anything, but as I'm coming back to our dear guest, especially taking on our discussion with Professor Dr. Albert Byamjisha, the Technical Advisor Head of SDG under the Office of the Prime Minister, we will be interested very much to go into the critical analysis. And as a technical advisor, possibly what he might have advised that has not yet worked, still he is at liberty to say, no, this is in the pipeline. And again, we are also focusing on this discussion in relation to how sustainable development goals will be implemented successfully in Uganda, bearing in mind that the agenda set is up to 2030 and it feeds into the vision 2040. So we are not saying that we are at the end of the road, but we are in the middle. And having said that, Prof, my question still remains that as the executive director for Uganda Network of Young People with HIV was able to articulate on some key areas that touches on these sustainable development goals. And we will be discussing some of these goals concurrently, the in-depth of what is being realized and what is still lacking, so that it takes us back to touch our chest and say, it has found me, I'm not yet there. And then we say, let us be there. The NRM government, NRM-led government, promised Ugandans that it is a challenge to poverty-stricken families, especially in rural areas, in order to improve on education service, which is one of the goal, number 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The starting point is primary education. 2 challenges. One is dealing over, because of the poverty-stricken families, they are unable to provide lunch for their children and leading to school dropout. That is open information, even my colleague from Akwa shared from research. 2, the provision of sanitary pads. The female child feel uneasy with it to remain at school, and they end up now going for the teenager pregnancy and others dropping out. And I don't want to begin with bigger things, as if like we want to begin only talk about, airlifting, having aeroplane. No, small things. Yes. Why is it that in your progress, and maybe you give us hope in your plan, when are we, the 2 things, the how and when, are we going to achieve this into reality? And we have done 2 things. 1, will be ending poverty by starting from where life begins, from primary education. 2, will also be achieving equitable education. And 3, will also be achieving the gender equality, so that, we have the female child is the important aspect. Prof, give us hope.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think there is a hope. Government is determined to make sure that no one is left behind. And when we talk of leaving no one is left behind, we are talking of all the citizens of this country. Children, elderly, younger people, etc. For the case of education, government has been able to improve on access by putting up schools. Government schools, you notice that 92% of the primary schools are in all the parishes in the country, 71% secondary schools in all the sub-counties, and they have made it free, universal primary education and universal secondary education, which actually allows younger people from poor families to access education. And the completion rates, of course, are still it's about 67% of children starting and then completing primary 7. But according to the policy of universal primary education, government is supposed to provide teachers, provide schools, and then the parents should also be contributing to the education of the child. So when you take the child as a unit, as a focus analysis, you will find that actually this child stays at home, and therefore the parent is responsible for looking after the child in some ways. Now, when this child goes to school, definitely the government takes charge. So government and the communities must work together to make sure they ensure that one there. You have talked about the issue of food and sanitary pads. Food, of course, according to the policy, government is supposed to provide the schools, the teachers, and the other pedagogies at school, while the parent is supposed to be providing food to feed the child, because the child stays at home and is supposed to be providing that food. And if anything,
the government promised to provide.
Promised to provide lunch, and of course, when they empower the parents and provide opportunities for them, they will get money and be able to feed their children. And what has the government done? They have started programs like this parish development body, which is coming up. If you have analyzed it, if it is well implemented, it should be able to provide resources for the families to feed their children, and if anything, buy the sanitary pads. But then again, I think what is necessary is to mobilize different stakeholders and provide money which can buy the pads as the government promised that one. But I think the promise is still there, and we hope it will be achieved.
Thank you, Professor. Now, since you are from the Office of the Prime Minister, I do moderate not for my sake, but for the public. It is still a demand. And, voters, much as they may not have all the power to either take decisions, but they are still remembering that they were promised. But you said it partly, rightly feeding into what we intend to solve, empowering the community, so that the community can be able to cater for some of these needs. While we were in the break, she's made a statement which I want again to speak to the viewers and the policymakers outside there, where there is a will. And for the meantime, while we are trying to solve the bigger problem before everything runs out of hand, I would like us, beyond being in this urban setting, to take a big picture what is back home in the rural areas. I can afford to buy for my child sanitary pad, but there are some of the rural areas even where these sanitary pads are not sold. And that's why we are now calling upon the government in what we call, there's a time when they talked about hard-to-reach areas. And hard-to-reach areas, you may end up losing a certain medics who would have been developed from a rural area, from a poorest family. And because of our carelessness, not taking care, not seeing an issue, and we end up losing. Me, as I just also make a contribution and a commentary, it is important to consider those, uncommon challenges of a rural child coming from Karamoja there, where even they are still bidding for them, even, who are still in the evolution stage, evolving stage rather. And that's very important. And maybe you will come into that there are some quick intervention needed. Let's go to our researcher, Mr. Mbabazi Jonas Musinga, and we look at there are some of the key areas that we do call upon you to be more vigilant. You are not government, you are an NGO, but NGOs and civil society, you are key players so long as you give advocacy in reality without fear or favor. It is always a dilemma when you act in fear or favor. In this matter, we know what has happened in our country. Our wetlands are being given away, broad daylight, and we have the NEMA, and they are called the civil society has not come to do the advocacy. Say, oh no, for you may not buy it, but you say, oh no, this is wrong. And I referred to goal number 15, I referred to goal number 13, climate action in matters of climate change, and also there is goal 14, conserve and sustainable use of ocean, which will feed us again to goal 2, end hunger, achieve food security, end poverty. These are the indicators of what is happening right in Karamoja, but the root cause of this, we are aware through research which you are covered with, the issue of failure to protect our environment, climate change, and conserve these other water bodies. What are your decisive actions that you've taken in partnership with government or calling upon government, and also in your action plans to ensure that we are able to achieve these around 4 goals in one?
Thank you for that question and the commentary on particularly Goal 13 and Goal 15. One comment that I would like to make on Goal 13, that is climate action, is that we are on track on particularly Goal 13. Uganda is on track, and that relates to carbon emissions from fossil fuel combustion and cement production, and also carbon emissions embodied in imports, and also carbon emissions embodied in fossil fuel exports. And this is explainable by a number of factors. For instance, our level of industrialization and cement production, among other things. They explain, partly explain our performance on this indicator. I would also like to make a comment on Goal 15, and Goal 15 is about life on land. Mm-hmm. And life on land, I would like to say that our performance has stagnated, and this relates to area that is protected in terrestrial sites. These are very important ecosystems, like wetlands, like forests, and so on. And also on issues of deforestation, permanent deforestation. We have lost our forest cover to almost a single digit at the moment, and it's mainly because of the recklessness that we have had with the management of forests, management of wetlands, reclamation of the wetlands, and encroachment on the wetlands with a lot of negligence. Mm. And it is because of that that we see stagnation in as far as achievement of the SDG 15 is concerned. Mm. Government, different stakeholders in civil society have been making a lot of noise on giveaway of forests. Recently, there is a forest that has been given away for sugarcane growing in Hoima. Exactly, and civil society have taken government to court. That's good. And through public interest litigation to make sure that that forest is not given away, and the battle is still on. Accord and other stakeholders some time back were involved in the Save Mavila campaign. The Save Mavila campaign, if you still remember. And that was intended to make sure that we could be able to reduce on reckless giveaway of forests, deforestation, and so on and so forth. And I am happy to say that we were able to realize positive outcomes through the Save Mavila campaign. And that was effort of so many civil society organizations. I could also give an example of an intention where government wanted to degazette part of Pianupe National Park in Karamoja, and we took government to court over the same. It was a public interest litigation, and society won over the degazation of that national park, and we were able to save part of the national park that was supposed to be degazetted for human action. So what is civil society doing? I have demonstrated that we have had cases of public interest litigation where we have taken government to court, and in some cases we have won, while in others we haven't. But that was in public interest to make sure that we can be able to save the different forests and also save the most important ecosystems in this country. We have also been able to engage in a number of other interventions, for instance, in issues of oil and gas. We've been instrumental in putting together resettlement action plans for those that are some of the people that have been displaced in the oil graben. And we've been working together with different oil companies, government entities, to put together guidelines put together laws that are able to protect the ecosystems. Civil society has made a lot of noise on issues of environmental protection under the ECOP, and then the government has listened. Well, there could be a number of issues that have not been yet addressed, but civil society has had a very big footprint in a number of decisions that government has taken. It has engaged government constructively on a number of issues, and we have seen progress being made. That is not to say that there are no challenges. The challenges still remain. We have challenges in terms of enforcement of government policies and government laws, in as far as utilization of forests is concerned. We have challenges relating to the enforcement of laws that relate to environment. There are a number of social impact assessments that have been made, environmental impact assessments that have been made along investments in these very important ecosystems. And there have been a number of challenges in ensuring that there is implementation of recommendations that arise from environmental impact assessments around investments that are made near or in very valuable ecosystems. And government still has a challenge in that area, and I believe that if we can be able to tighten the nuts and the bolts around issues of enforcement of the law, then we will be able to see progress in the realization of goals 13 and 15, and definitely these goals have a multiplier effect on other goals like poverty. We should be able to see sustainable exploitation of natural resources, sustainable exploitation of resources around those ecosystems, coexistence between the nature and human beings, so that people can be able to have a livelihood. We could be able to have rain. You know, we are a rain-fed economy, and agriculture is largely rain-fed. And if we are to have a population which is almost more than 50% that depends on agriculture survive, then we need to make sure that we can be able to pay attention to the environment and do what is required of us, not only as government, but also other stakeholders like civil society and private individuals as well.
Wow, thank you so much. We'll be looking at who remains a hindrance or a roadblock for us, and whether it will be the key players in the government, whether it will be the citizens. We're an asset today, and we'll go for that one.
But he has acknowledged that they are working together with the government to enforce some of the laws, and which they have done.
I appreciated his submission, but now will be, you know, I'm now joining together with advocates. We want to know who is the hindrance, because we should not lament. We know people are doing wrong things. Why should they say, you say we are working about it? No, me, I'm coming out right there. Who is the hindrance? If we know what we are being advocated for, the sustainable development goals are not for political parties. They are for the people. They are for the government. They were agreed all over the world. No one should be hindrance. A hindrance to these goals is the hindrance to humanity. That's how active I'm bringing it forth. And having said that, he will be responding on issues relating with, we talk on urban cities development, but vis-a-vis conserving the environment, because it does not mean that when you are developing urban cities that you should tamper with our environment, degrading the environment, giving away of some wetland sited areas for developers, and you say this is an investor, you give away Namambe. No, that should stop. I don't have too much authority, but I would like to condemn. That should stop. I believe, Prof, you agree with me. If we are saying that in Kigezi, don't tamper with the wetlands, then we go to Masaka, we find that wetlands are given away to Chinese. Who is a hindrance to what we are referring as conserving the environment? He will be coming back after. But let me go back to our sister here. She is very much, interested to look at empowering the youth. And there is a goal that will concurrently discuss as Prof will come in and will answer some of the questions that we also pose to him. Goal 8, promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. While we are advocating for the well-being of the youth and those who have been challenged with HIV and those who have not yet affected by HIV, a lot is needed in this area. You are having a passion of empowerment and also as well for the gender equality and empower all women and girls. This seems not yet realized and maybe there are some of the achievements to be cited. I would like to come again, Madam Rose, in that regard.
Thank you very much. I'll start off with SDG around gender equality, that's SDG 5. One thing that we believe in, and I'm happy that this was captured, is the fact that being free of discrimination is not only a women's right, but also very pertinent and crucial for us to achieve sustainable development. Women time and again have been exposed to different kinds of gender inequalities that access to education, range from the inequalities they are faced to, like child marriages. These are most commonly amongst adolescent girls and young women, female genital mutilation, and then the time that we spend on unpaid labor, like taking care of the family and all that, and then we go ahead to speak about economic empowerment for the same. So as an organization and the different capacities that I speak in, we have been very, very crucial on ensuring that we empower different adolescent girls and young women through the programs that we implement. And what we usually intend to do is supporting the adolescent girls and young women to have a voice of their own, to be able to speak out against these inequalities, and ensuring that we create a space where women and girls can thrive at the same level as male and as the male companions. We are not saying that we are all the same. What we are saying that is that we deserve better. We are not saying that men should be moved away from the table. We're just asking for a space on the table to be able to contribute to conversations as equal partners, to be able to speak about the issues that affect our well-being, and these are taken into consideration. We realize that 1 out of 5, at least this is as per the UBO's report on gender-based violence, that 1 out of 5 of adolescent girls and young women have been sexually harassed. When we talk about sexual harassment for girls and women, this is most likely to cause a lot of ruckus in the community because this is done by family members. This is done by the most trusted people in the community, friends, uncles, teachers, and this is at different levels, be it in school, at the tertiary institutions of education. We've all been seeing the news going around the sexually transmitted marks. You know about it. So, and then we've also had scenarios where women are subjected to doing carpet interviews before they're given jobs. So what an organization is looking at through the different programs is how do we create a level ground to see to it that as a young woman, I can be able to beat an interview and secure a job without having to go for that carpet interview or having to sleep with someone and slip my way into the workplace. We also acknowledge the fact that there have been some male companions or male champions who have been able to come out. And
before I go to that, because you put there and someone saying, me, I'm powerless, what do you want me to do? I need a job. Have you put on mechanisms as you work it out with either the private and the public institutions to have either an advocate in that regard so that when assessing a woman, I mean a female, sex, is assessed on merit, because we can say it rightly here but stops here. And what happens is whenever you throw yourself into an interview process, you give in, you don't know how you'll be assessed. What are you in the proposal to end this? Because we've said it, and my prayer is that after saying it, something, either we suggest something and we pick it up from there so that it can end. Any action proposed?
First and foremost, if you've realized there have been quite a number of campaigns that have been running against this kind of harassment. Campaigns that have been run under the hashtags of Me Too, He for She, and all that. And all these are intended to call out on these perpetrators. Because one way to address gender-based violence, sexual harassment, is through calling out these perpetrators. The more we keep quiet as adolescent girls and young women, on these issues, we are giving power to the perpetrator. Because if I'm violated by the same boss and I keep quiet and another girl doesn't know about this boss, they'll also run a risk of being violated. However, if we create a space that is safe, provide them with services to access justice, that's also a very big other component around gender-based violence, access to justice, and being able to bring these people to court and they are given their own sentences is one way. That poses us a question. We have very many laws in line with gender-based violence, but how many of these are really effective? You rightly put it at the start that the country is known to have good laws, good policies, but the implementation of the same is always questionable.
So thank you. Again, we will be looking at the unemployment. You've already handled it together, but I leave it for you. You know, your proposed, project plans. You've said it well, but it's not yet resolved. The awareness, it can be done, but the action to tame it, to me, I also want to throw it into back to you and to the viewers. Maybe an advocate for maybe either proposed by your NGOs and others to have an independent person who can be either with a lawyer in a midst when assessing a female child, and if anything generally, that an independent person is there to say either this job has been given on merit. It's not at all for us, we are not part of your committee, but this job has been given merit. I'm bringing it back to you, Professor. We'll be coming from the short commercial break. These are issues of equal opportunities. And part of it, the fight against corruption has compromised the aspect of equal opportunities. And we need now to govern ourselves as we indeed desire to do. Peace, justice, and strong institutions that can tame inequalities, that can tame these inefficiencies. It is a subject matter that we'll be looking at, and that a bit is not yet addressed. We are going for a commercial break. Stay tuned. Dear viewers and listeners, these are issues we'd like to propose and critically discuss so that we can have a better governed country that is achieving the SDGs. Thank you, our dear guests. You are doing very well. See you after the second session.
Smart 24, driving business. Every new day brings new opportunities for you to conquer the business world. Start your day with a show that will drive your business. Be the first to know the latest prices around town, the latest business information around the country and the world. We bring you in-depth analysis with exclusive interviews from key players. And of course, wouldn't you want that for your morning? Get up to speed with what is trending in the business world, all in one morning show. Smart Means Business with your favorite guy, Joram Post Sonko, every weekday, Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 10:50 a.m.